suspects in custody, but they're all linked to the Garcia cartel.
No witnesses have been willing to step up.
These cartels are no joke. They've got everyone in their pockets.
You've been through a terrible tragedy. Maybe you didn't see what you think you saw.
Welcome. Welcome to the movie club. Come sit. Time for us to talk about the movies. What movies? Well, I'll ask my guest, Eilish, what movies are we talking about today?
We're talking about Peppermint and Atomic Blonde.
Well, we talking about just one. I said movies. I meant movie. But anyway, yes, she is correct. We are talking about Peppermint today. And I gotta say, Eilish, you know what one of my favorite movies are?
What is it?
Man on Fire. You ever seen that Man on Fire?
I haven't. No.
It is a Denzel Washington movie where he's in like Brazil or Mexico somewhere. And well, let me tell you, a lot of people, they go on fire now.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
No.
Is it a spoiler?
It's a tiny, just a little spoiler. It's a little spoiler. It just get a little spoiler. That's what we do here at the movie club. We get a little bit of spoiler. This movie, Peppermint, is a lot like that movie Man on Fire. Now, I know people, y'all done heard me, if y'all been listening to our Women's Month podcast, a lot of these movies, they stem from the era of Man on Fire and other revenge flicks here thus. But this one, I have never seen a movie that has not only taking the not really the storyline, but the editing, the way like the shift, like the little color shift of some of the scenes, it does a little shaky shit. That's like early 90s film editing. That's like your Bad Boys 2, you know. That's your Paybacks, you know, these other little action movies from back then. I don't know. I like this movie. Don't let me get you wrong. I like this movie. But now you, Eilish, you feel like you feel quite differently. How do you feel about this movie?
I get it. Like, I get what they were trying to do. And I think I'm biased in the fact that, one, I don't really like action movies to begin with. Mm-hmm. But it just didn't do it for me, you know? There was nothing objectively bad about it. It just wasn't my favorite.
Okay, all right. So give me like what about it? Give me one thing. Like, all right, let's talk about performances, right? Because this movie is, one, people don't know what the movie's about. It's about Jennifer Garner as a mom whose family got murdered by the cartels, and now she is gone and Batmaned off and played a little MMA, and he came back and decided she's going to get revenge on the cartels, the corrupt, dirty cops, and everybody who has done her and her family wrong. What did you think about the performances of this film?
I will say, the only notable performance and like the only character that really matters in the film is Jennifer Garner, and I think that she did do a really good job. I think for me, where I got a little bit bored, it just wasn't very visually enticing. Like, for a lot of the shots, it could have just been like an episode of CSI or something like that, you know? Right. There was nothing that screamed cinematic at me, therefore, I was just left a little bit bored.
Okay. See, I can feel that. See, I like Jennifer Garner's performances because she sells this movie. I think she is honestly the one thing that does sell this movie for me, and that's because a lot of this movie, the kind of premise is, let's take this white suburban mom and literally make her into Batman. And honestly, she goes through, like, she's Punisher through most of this, but there's still those little moments where she is motherly. Like, you can't take that. You can take the mother out of the suburbs, but you can't take the suburbs out of the mother, apparently. Like, even when she's like beating a dude up in a grocery store, she's just like, you gonna do right by your son, ain't you? You know, like, I love that little bit about her. that kind of sets her character, separates her character from like every other like movie of this type that we get to see. However, I will say, like you said, visually, there's not a lot going on here. It's very different than like a movie we're going to talk about next week that I talked about with Sharon, Promising Young Woman, which shots, it honestly felt like an indie movie, but also a thriller action movie. This feels like your run-of-the-mill action movie. And I think if it's either this one or the next one me and you are going to talk about, but this one is directed by Pierre Morel, who, if you didn't know, is cinematographer, does a lot of the Steadicam operation, cameraman work for a lot of Luc Besson films, which Luc Besson has done things like Taken, The Transporter. So you'll see a lot of that from this. So he doesn't really have like a visual style of his own. I think he's pretty much taking what he's learned from watching Luc Besson and putting it on his work. And even still, with a bunch of the Steadicam work, I don't think there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it was not like very distinct, but I will say, I was going to make a comparison. This felt like watching Taken, and it's really funny that he also worked on Taken, which kind of just goes to show like how generalized it is as an action movie.
He directed Taken.
Oh, he did direct it?
He did direct Taken, yeah. He did cinematography on Transporter, District 13. No, he directed District 13. He did Unleashed, Taxi 4. They made 4 taxis. But those were the big films that he did the camera. No, he actually did the first Taken. So yeah, that's definitely why it feels he went from old white man to suburban housewife. And that's, he that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to take regular ass people and just show you that they can still do action moves. They still got it. It's like,
see, but that was like another downfall for this movie for me is how did she go from regular suburban house mom and then like, I don't know, I think she was gone for like 5 years and she came back and was able to like single-handedly take down the cartel.
They literally, the only explanation that they showed for that was like a clip of her doing some background MMA.
Yes.
No gun training, she didn't go to the Israeli Special Forces for a year, she didn't do no push-ups, she just got hit a bunch, and it's like, and now I can fight everybody. I can do John Wick. Okay. I think one of my favorite, like, this movie is kind of dumb for me, was the FBI agent goes to the Skid Row and is looking, she's like talking to the people and they're like not giving it. But one hobo dude is like, she's like, isn't it dangerous for those kids over there? He's like, nah, we got an angel or something like that.
Yeah.
She's like, what? She turns around. There's just this big mural of her.
How did the police not see that and be like, oh, I bet she's got something to do with this? I don't understand.
It's like a big neon sign that says Jennifer Garner's character is here. Everybody's looking around like, where is this woman? What is she doing? Maybe the big angel with guns for wings.
Literally. Also, a bone to pick with the crime analyst who was like, when the FBI agent walks in and she's just like, oh, why is there no crime in Skid Row? And he's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, you didn't notice that for 3 months? That Skid Row had no crime or a giant mural of a woman with gun wings? Somebody's doing their job very poorly.
That one part, like that one area, that one section of the movie was just like, oh, y'all dumb. Y'all dummy dumb. That's why I say this is your run-of-the-mill Revengeflick vigilante action movie. This is so by the numbers, by the paint, that it just, I can understand when we get to the audience critique or what they thought of the film. We'll probably see that it probably didn't do so well at the time of its release, and you can definitely see why. But I do believe, and that's why I'm telling you my grade right now. My grade, I give this movie a B. Despite everything I've said here, I give this movie a B. Now it deserves a C. This movie deserves a C, but I really do think Gardner's performance brings it up like a whole level. I really do.
I agree with that. She is literally the backbone of this movie.
Her back hurting more than it does halfway through this film because she carried this movie so hard. Yes. There are other like smaller performances that I think are really cool. Like the who's the good cop? Also the whole bad cop trope. The corrupt cop trope that is just like obvious from the start.
What is his name?
John Ortiz, who plays Detective Moises Beltran. I thought he was pretty cool. Throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, there's really not much going on here. I still think it's fun. I think if you are a fan of this type of film, I think it is a fine enough addition to your collection of these films, or like to watching a marathon of these. I think you'll have a good enough time. I just think it's nothing to elevate the genre or the subgenre. But
no,
that's my grade
not.
for it. What do you have? What's your grade? Talk to old Pierre Morel real quick.
If it wasn't for Jennifer Garner, I would truly give this movie like a D. Because there was the whole plot, everything about it has to do with her. And she did give a really, really good performance. But I don't know, I give it like a C. A solid, maybe a C plus for good old Jenny. But the plot is kind of boring. I feel like they kind of like exploited the revenge plot a little bit hard when they were just like, am I allowed to talk about spoilers and stuff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess this isn't a spoiler. It happens in like the first 15 minutes. They kill her kid and her husband, and she just lays there in their blood, and she's like, oh, these are the guys that did it. And they're like, oh, I see you're taking lithium. That's too bad. Sorry.
They did lay it on so thick when it was like, not only was the prosecutor pretty much a mob lawyer, but the defense was the defense was a mob lawyer. The prosecutor maybe take a bribe. Like, he was just sitting there looking at his notes like, man, I forgot did I put my laundry list in here? And the judge was like, oh, I'm also bad. And it's just like, well, then what's the point? Who did you not buy off? Why even have this court? Like, how much money did this take you?
Exactly. And like, in my little notes, I even have like, it did play on strings a little bit that everybody's like, she's crazy. Her family died. She doesn't need lithium. Therefore, she absolutely doesn't remember anything right. And like I said at the beginning, don't like action movies. At one point in this film, I felt like primal instincts like build up, and I was like, that's fucking cool. I don't know if I want to curse. Sorry.
No,
but
yeah. Don't fucking curse on here. Your kids listening to this.
Sorry. But when she comes back to LA and everybody realizes it, and they see the 3 gunmen hung on the Ferris wheel, my primal instincts were like, haha, she did it.
So you're a fan of Predator, I see. Yes, okay.
Yeah. But from there it was kind of downhill again, because I don't really like overtly violent things. And I get that what she was doing was like for the better good and out of revenge and whatnot, but I feel like if she was gonna leave the country, she should have just like started a new life somewhere else. But that's me. That has nothing to do with the movie or the plot.
You're more like, she should have got over it. Took that money, going to Bali, whatever.
Exactly. I don't know. Rob a bank, try again somewhere else. But I understand where she was coming from. I get it.
So what did you think? Last thing, and then we'll move on to what the audience thought. What did you think of that ending? That obviously sequel baited ending where he puts the handcuff key in her hand.
I think that irritated me more than anything. I was just like, personally, I am not a fan of sequel baiting or optimism in films like this. I think he should have just let her die right there. She wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't need to turn into Taken, but like gender flipped, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the ending. I feel like the ending kind of negated every good thing that had happened up to that point.
Mm-hmm. I think I honestly agree so much with you there because the same ending, and this is spoiler for a whole different movie. If you haven't seen either Man on Fire or Promising Young Woman, please skip 5 minutes ahead. But all right, they're gone. But both of those characters during their whole revenge fueled like escapade, they die at the end. They kind of like not really martyr themselves, I guess, but sacrifice themselves for what they believe in. I think it would have been I think that type of ending for this definitely would have worked. Like if like you said, if he had let her die, or if she had died even before he got there, like he got there and it was too late, you know, and like I said, it's just sequel baiting at this point for a sequel that honestly probably isn't gonna come anytime soon. I would be surprised if I see a trailer for Peppermint 2, Electric Boogaloo. I said it. I didn't mean to say it, but I had to. It's there, it's right there. We can just move on. But if that is a thing, I would be surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even hear anything.
Oh, good.
But no. So that is what we think, people. What did the audience think of this movie? Well, with a budget of, and we got one in the ranges, $22.8 million to $25 million, this movie made a whopping $53.9 million at the box office. Now, that isn't a flop, but it isn't great, right? It made twice its budget back, right? It made its budget back 2 times. But I feel like for most, and this is Styx Films, not a big studio. I mean, kind of a big studio. You see them on a lot of films. But this isn't like Universal, Paramount, or nothing like that. I still feel like they're probably looking for triple-digit returns for their movie. So, again, that's just another reason why you probably won't see a Peppermint 2. You know, this movie didn't do great in the theaters. I think the people that went to go see it probably went to go see it off of Jennifer Garner's name alone. So, I don't know how strong her name carries weight nowadays. I don't know. It kind of stands to reason. Also, depending on when this came out, September 2018. I don't know what else came out that weekend, but probably a heavy hitter. So, people.
I didn't know this movie existed until you told me about it.
Yeah, so. That's the problem with these smaller little action movies. I think this only really this got a really big play after it came out on Netflix last year. That's 2 years later that this movie got got its re-release, got kind of like new life through Netflix streaming. So I don't know. Well, people, that's it for us. Eilish, tell them where they can find you on them interwebs.
You can find me on Instagram at Eilish Bailey Photography.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I feel like you got a Facebook?
Oh, I do have a Facebook. It's the same thing. Eilish Bailey Photography.
People, please do go find her if you want them good photophobic pictures. I can't talk. I can't talk as well as Eilish can take them pictures. They are very beautiful taken. Please go check them out, look, and enjoy. You can find me on Letterboxd, King Price for Life, wherever Production 1200 stuff is listened to. And of course, you got my outro at the end. Goodbye.
Find her.
I don't care if you have to burn the city down.
Watching someone take everything from you
It turned you into somebody else.
Social media is lit up with support for her.
She's a multiple homicide suspect.
Not to them, she's not.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Make sure that you check out the other shows that we have on the Facebook, the other main podcast that comes out every other Tuesday. Make sure you leave a like, share it with your friends and your family. Go check out our YouTube where we have content from other Production 1200 works. And make sure you follow us on the Instagram. We post sometimes there. We'll do more. We'll try. Maybe. Like us on iTunes podcast, rate and review. Give us them 5 stars. And we'll see you next time.